G'day and welcome to the Game Day Squad Fantasy Cricket Show. I'm Dill, that's Stu, and that's Haz, and we're the Fantasy Bros. It was great to see Australia cap off that dominant Ashes campaign with a victory in the fifth test today. Bit of a shame it didn't go all day. Would have loved to sit here and watch some Ashes cricket. The Aussies finishing off the job as we're talking BBL as well, but nonetheless, that was a series defining moment. I think sealing that 4-1, so an unreal effort from the Aussies. Thanks as always for everyone tuning in. Obviously, some of us are back at work, unfortunately, but great to see some people live on air with us. Look, we're going to be talking all things round 11 and round 12 because the Fantasy Bros once again are having a bit of a dig at the Heat game on that Saturday afternoon. Loving myself an afternoon game, 3 p.m. kickoff there for round 12. So we'll be out there. So thanks. If you're joining us, make sure you jump in the chat and throw out your starts and questions for round 11 or round 12 and let us know in the comment section who you're starting, who you're sitting, and we'll see what we can do to help you out. Before we preview those two rounds, boys, how did we go in round 10? Stu, I saw you were getting up on that leaderboard in Challenger.
Yeah, g'day Dill, g'day Haz, and thanks for tuning in, everyone, once again. Yeah, a bit disappointed that the Ashes is done and dusted now. We were robbed of a few days in those early tests, but it's all done now. We can't look forward to any more of the Aussie domination. But our focus shifts now, obviously, to the rest of the Oz cricket season and then the Global Cricket World Cup just on the horizon. Yeah, mate, a bit happier with some of my performances this round after probably 2 or 3 back-to-back really disappointing ones. Still no pods coming off in Classic with a 94th place finish for the round. Challenger much better with 8th and Champion 30th. Still sitting 8th overall for Challenger and 7th overall for Champion. Haz, you were sitting pretty in Challenger as well, just behind me, but I know that you had a couple extra players than me last night, one of them being Big Gurinder Sandhu. His 100 points, did he get you over the line at all?
G'day, Stu, Dill, and everyone tuning in. Yes, I did have Big Gurinder Sandhu still to come last night. I played his plat in Challenger. He did enough to get me 3rd for the week in Challenger, which leaves me sitting at roughly 21st in the seasonal ranking, so just outside that top 20, which I'm really pushing hard to get into that top 20 by the end of the season. Some other ranks for the round, nowhere near as good as Challenger, but Contender was 40th. And Classic. Stu, you said your pods failed to fire. Well, mine really didn't fire. If you got 94th, I got 185th. So, yeah, my pods definitely didn't show up to play in Classic last round. Dill, I saw you were sitting in the top 10 for Champion heading into last night's game. How did you end up going?
Yeah. Yeah, I could not hold on to that at all. I was pretty chuffed to see my name up there in 6th, and I think that was all down to Davey Warner's knock. Again, sitting pretty near the top of the batsman averages. We put in the chat yesterday, I believe, that David Warner, once he gets to 51, he's never been out in the Big Bash. So it's great to see him continuing that trend. And he does not have an average after hitting 51 runs, which is pretty crazy to believe. Yeah, unfortunately, I went the opposite. We had a chat, obviously, last night before the game, and you said you were running Sandhu. So I thought, look, I'm going to play the potential pod here and go Behrendorff once again. And obviously that cost me big time. And I ended up sliding down to 16th for Champion, unfortunately, and finished 29th in Challenger as well. So, yeah, not quite as good as you boys this week, but I'm pretty keen to bounce back. And hopefully I can do that in round 11 and then round 12. Stu, talking about those two, what can we expect from the show today, talking about those two rounds?
Yeah, I'll jump into that a sec. Just a quick shout out and hello to some of the regulars. Mel, thanks for joining us once again. Izzy, g'day, mate. Great to see you in here. How's the sides going? And Caleb Bird, going well, mate. How are you? 8th in starter for Caleb, 9th in Contender, and 11th in Classic. Wow. His first decent round of the season. Well done, mate. Hopefully we can steer you into a couple of good selections and that good run of form can continue. Yeah, Dill, as always, our live preview shows will break down all of the upcoming Big Bash fixtures for the round. However, like you said earlier, with the Heat, have your nice early 3 p.m. game. It makes a really nice viewing for the whole family, where the kids can get out there and watch the game and get to bed at a decent time still once it's done. So I think you and Haz will be there, which will be fantastic. I think Pity might be there as well. So if you catch up with Pity, say g'day for me as well, please. big shout out to him. He's doing really good things on that leaderboard as well. The fourth fantasy bro, for those unfamiliar with the name. Yeah, so our usual live round preview show for round 12 will take place during this preview show this evening. So we'll spend a little bit of time touching on the round 11 fixtures. There's 2 of them, and we'll run through a couple of pods for the round where you can maybe get some players that are a little bit different to everyone else. But we'll spend most of the show previewing round 12, where there are 4 fixtures and every single team is going to be featured in round 12. So yeah, we'll run you through the bat, wicket keeper, the all-rounder, the bowlers that we are going to target in round 12. We'll have Throwdown Showdown as always. Haz is running out to a bit of a lead there. There'll be cards to give away to the viewers as always. So hang around. There's plenty happening in today's show. And that's why we've started a little bit earlier, so that we can get in there before the first ball is bowled this evening. Don't forget, new users, please sign up using the promo code SUMMER. That's all capital letters, SUMMER. You can get 3x3 player common packs just for doing so. You'll also get a whole heap of bronze cards to get some of your starter and contender squads rolling. If you haven't got your friends involved, make sure you do so. There's still plenty of rounds where they can win some cash and pack prizes. So get on board and get them started.
Yeah, unreal. And look, one thing, unfortunately, for our new users that they'll miss out on is the GDS Cup. And we obviously had the final last game or last round between the Mighty Hoss and Duffman. And look, I can sit here and I can say that I was beaten by the champion, which I'm pretty happy to do so. Duffman did knock me out of the competition and went on to win the whole thing. So congratulations to Duffman. It's an unreal effort. It's always a tough gig when you've got a whole lot of competitions to be focusing on. On top of that, you've got the Classic Cup, and you don't really know what your opponent's doing or how they're going to travel. And speaking to Mighty Hoss over the weekend, I knew he had a bit of a shaky start. I think he played lead in one of his teams, and obviously that didn't help him out in that matchup. So unlucky to Mighty Hoss, but good on Duffman. And I believe Cal mentioned in Discord that the next GDS Cup will be for that global cricket competition, which is the T20 Cup T20 World Cup, coming up at the beginning of February. So it's not too far away. All right. Should we get into round 11 before jumping into the round 12 preview before that first ball is bowled in about an hour or so? Look,
let's do it.
On screen, we've got a couple of teams a couple of games with 4 teams playing over the next 2 days. Obviously, tonight we've got the fixture at MCG. We've got the Stars up against the Sixers. Looks like clear skies, so we shouldn't have to worry about rain at all. At the MCG, the all-player average is 36.3, so it's up there. It's not the highest, but it's not too bad. The first innings batting versus the chasing batting average, they're both very similar, 23 versus 25, so not too much in there. So I wouldn't worry too much about who wins the bat flip or not. But the key, I think, for me is that the Sixers, since the start of last season, have allowed an average of 41 GDS points to star players, where the Stars have limited the Sixers to just 32.2. We know the Stars are on a roll at the moment, particularly their bowlers are doing some wonderful things. Their batsmen at the top of the order as well. So I feel like that might continue to roll. Then tomorrow night, we head over to Ninja Stadium down south. Again, 6:15 p.m. Australian Eastern Time kickoff there. The all-player average down at Ninja is 38 GDS points. The first innings batting average versus the chasing, again, almost identical. It's in and around that 29 GDS points. And once again, their averages allowed to each other are very close. Last season, the Strikers allowed an average of 38 to Canes players, while the Hurricanes allowed 35 to Strikers. So a couple of things there to consider. Based on those, is there something in particular you want to target there, Haz, or are you just keeping it up to sort of the bat flip and then waiting to see what teams look like?
A little bit of both. I think, like you said, it doesn't really matter who bats first in both games. The stats say that it's pretty even across the board, whether it's first or second innings. I think probably the main stat, and like you said, that probably stands out as probably the one to target, is this fact that the Sixers allow nearly 10 more points to Stars players than the Stars do to Sixers players. So if we go back to the most recent matchup at the start of the season, it was the Sam Harper show, really. He got 110 not out. Tommy Curran and Peter Siddle also got 3 wickets each, and they had the success in that matchup at the SCG. So who knows, they might be able to translate into another big performance at the MCG this time. But that's probably more where I'm looking at. But it's hard when there's only 2 games. It's pretty even across the board.
Yeah, and I guess that's why we're really focusing on our pod selection for round 11. Obviously, we've got some big names that we're going to be targeting in terms of Stoinis, Tom Curran, Peter Siddle versus Harris Ralph, and those kind of names. But we're going to throw out a few that might be a little bit different. And obviously, when we talk about a pod, we're talking about potential. Point of difference, and the potential point of differences that we're going to have for round 11. And look, the key for me is that we've got to remember that pods, they can be a risk. And we're not saying that these are our go-to players necessarily. It's that we're going to look at these players and we're potentially going to take a bit of a risk by playing this, where it's going to go obviously boom or bust for us. So Stu, do you want to kick us off with who do you think your pod or your number one pod is for this round 11?
Yeah, I've gone for the bowler in Mitch Swepson. I think he's a really interesting pod this round, particularly given it's a lot shorter. There's only 4 teams to pick from. But also coaches will need to scroll a long way down that list to sort of find his name and throw him into their squads. And the reason for that is his form hasn't been very good. But look, his ability and his recent form in the last 2 matches certainly outweigh his total season average, which is just 23.75 GDS points. In fact, after his first 2 matches where he went wicketless, his average was just 8. So it would surprise me if many coaches have played Mitch Swepson in his previous 2 matches, but he's been really impressive with an average of 50 through those 2 matches. And that's why that average is slowly increasing from that measly 8. So I think that average of 50 across the last 2 games is showing that he's finally found some rhythm in green. Obviously, a new side for him, new sort of team dynamic, new goals, that sort of thing coming from the Brizzy Heat. So the last 2 matches have been really impressive. And in his most recent fixture at the MCG, he was by far the best bowler. He had figures of 1 for 20, and he didn't have a 4 hit off his bowling whatsoever. And with the likes of Stoinis, Ralph, Siddle, Tom Curran in the lineup, a lot of those bowlers went for 10 or more. So it just proves that he was really difficult to get away and tie the batsmen down and put a lot of pressure on them. In the same match, spin also played a factor in both innings, really, with Callum Stowe and Hassan Khan combining for 3 wickets between them. And the match prior at the MCG as well, the Hurricanes, despite losing the match pretty easily, their best bowler by far was Rashad Hussain, the leggy, who claimed 2 wickets there at the MCG as well. So I think there's plenty on offer for the spinners there at the ground, and you don't have to be a strike bowler getting the death overs necessarily to capitalise. And that's where I think Mitchy Swepson could pay off this round. The boundaries are a little bit bigger there at the MCG. The Sixers bats might look to play him defensively and sort of just nip him around the park for 1s and 2s, which could be a bit of an issue in terms of wicket taking. We could get plenty of dot balls in that regard, but you really want them trying to take him down. And the moment he beats them in flight ever so slightly, they're going to find it really tough to clear the boundary or find the ropes, and that's where the wickets and certainly occur. So, yeah, look, I can see him being amongst the wickets once again, particularly if the Stars do bowl out the Sixers. I expect the pacemen to get plenty themselves, but I think, yeah, I really like Sweppo as a bit of a pod here.
And I guess it makes sense then if you can't decide between Harris, Ralph and Peter Siddle and you're not sure whose game it is. I know we've talked quite a bit about their trend of up and down and each having their own turn at having a big game. Then you just completely go away and pot up on Sweppo. And look, I want to love that, but I just go for leaving the Heat and then what he did the other night when they played them and he pulled out the photo frame celebration after the Heat socials, had a bit of a crack at him as well. So look, I love the pod shout, but I just don't know if I can get behind Sweppo at the moment. But look, couple of comments just from the chat first. Look, a couple of people have been putting in their results. Michael Cozzi, 10th in contender for him. Peter Quicksilver, 5th in classic. And then a couple of decent results from Mel as well. She's got a 4th in challenger with Philippe and Dorf. So that's a pretty good effort there from Mel, 4th in challenger. Wow. And so it's great to see everyone having some success. And then Peter Quicksilver put in, who's the better brother, Sam or Tom Curran? And that's a perfect little segue into your pod of the round is I'm going to say the better brother in Sam Curran.
Yeah, so Sam Curran is joining the Sixers this round. He should be in the team tonight. And he's a bit of a pod for me just purely for the fact that maybe people don't know that he's probably going to be playing this game. He's definitely in some really hot form after coming over from the ILT T20 competition. He is coming to the BBL for the very first time, and he's just come off that campaign where he captained the Desert Vipers to the title and earned Player of the Final honours after smashing an unbeaten 74 of 51 balls in the grand final decider. Across the ILT, Curran was outstanding with both bat and ball. He scored 397 runs from his 12 innings at an average of 49.62 and a strike rate of 135. And that match-winning knock of 74 was his high score for the tournament. He also contributed with the ball, taking 7 wickets from 11 innings with best figures of 2 for 17 at a tidy economy rate of 8.5. So that well-rounded output highlights pretty much his genuine all-round value. From a GDS perspective, Curran shapes as a pod probably purely because of the Sixers' stacked all-rounder depth. They now have the likes of Jack Edwards, Sean Abbott, Ben Dwarshuis, Joel Davies, Hayden Kerr, plus now Sam Curran at their disposal. So it's not entirely clear where he might bat in the order or how many overs he'll bowl. So hopefully when team lists come through in just over about half an hour's time, we'll get a bit of an idea or clearer idea of what his role potentially might be. If he is named at number 6 or lower, then he probably becomes a big pod due to that potential decreased opportunity he may get with the bat. But if he's named anywhere above 6, he turns into a must-have player for round 11. He is a genuine high-upside three-dimensional player that could well and truly pay off in his first game in the BBL. I do know we sometimes say that it's often we need to have a look at these internationals in their first time playing, but he is one that, and Mel said it in a chat, is rumoured to be the better brother and a bit of hype around him. Sam Curran, he is a gun. He was the most expensive player in the IPL, I think 2 seasons ago. So there's a bit of hype around him for good reason.
Yeah, and look, we were chatting off air on our Fantasy Bros chat, and Stu, you predicted that he's probably going to play maybe that number 4 role and potentially push a few others down the order. Do you still think that's going to be the case, that Curran comes out at number 4?
Not necessarily. No, I'd like to see it, obviously, for a GDS fantasy perspective. He was batting at number 4 over there in the ILT 20. He's definitely capable. And look, the form of the middle order for the Sixers hasn't been fantastic. Hughes hasn't been great at the top there. Moses has one of the worst strike rates alongside Babar Azam in the tournament. Silky doesn't do too much. I think they really need someone with the power hitting that Sam Curran can produce in that top order. And he would just be absolute fantasy gold at number 4. Probably expect him to be no lower than 6. And that batting lineup, we spoke about Hayden Kerr at 11 last week. They're going to be even better this round, aren't they? But yeah, with Mitchie Stark and probably even Smudge returning as well. How are we going to go selecting when the Sydney Sixers are playing? It's going to be fantastic.
Just pick a team of Sixers.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, you could pick a 4 rounders from the Sixers tonight as your round 11 side and have a pretty decent crack at it. You could also go the Curran brothers and probably still have a pretty decent crack at it as well. So yeah, I love to see that lineup for the Sixers, and obviously Steve Smith coming back is just going to bolster their chances of winning a title. Look, we've got Sif Kanga in the chat. Great to see Sif again from the NRL side of GDS, but he's getting involved in the cricket. Howdy, let's get rowdy. And then Janeth as well is here. Great to see Janice. G'day, lads. Good on you, mate. Thanks for joining us. Alrighty, the last pod on the screen there, boys. I feel like you might have a bit of a laugh at this one. I'm kind of getting flashbacks of middle of last season, Stu, when we were talking about NRL pods, and I threw out, I think, Alex Johnson one week, and then I think Will Kennedy the next. And,
yeah,
I know that the whole chat blew up, and I know that I got laughed off the pod, but look, I kind of feel this one could be the case as well. It's Mac Harvey, and he's shaping up as a really interesting pod for a couple of reasons. He's featured in 4 games for the Strikers this season. He's slowly getting into his work. He didn't start well. Obviously, he had some GDS scores of 6, 28, 20, but his last outing of 56 sort of shows where he's at, I think. He's got an average of 27.5. So again, he's ranked 19th for all batsmen. You're going to have to scroll down quite low. He's probably not someone that comes to mind straight away, particularly in that Strikers side when you've got the likes of Chris Lynn at the top of the order. But he's actually another batsman who's found himself a secondary role in that side. He's taken the gloves off veteran Harry Nelson. I know that he was injured earlier, but it's been 3 games now that Mac Harvey's had the gloves, and I guess that's a potential bonus for him. And as a result, it's really given him some handy fielding points to his repertoire. Obviously, his batting stats need to improve. We know that, but he's taken 4 catches in 3 matches as the gloveman. So I'm pretty happy to just keep my eye on him. I'm going to keep my eye on the 14-man squad and then see that final team list. Obviously, the squad was just announced before. The only big changes, Hassan Ali's been ruled out and Shamsi's in. So I think they're just flipping those two back and forward. So Mac Harvey there probably means he's going to take the gloves again. And I just want to see where he figures in that lineup. He's obviously been coming in at 3 and been doing not a great job, but I don't think the strikers batting has been all that great anyway. We've obviously got Sanger coming in at 4 usually. He hasn't been scoring that well. Chris Lynn at the top's only had 1 decent knock. Even Matt Short hasn't been batting as well. And I feel like it's just that one sort of partnership away, and Mac Harvey could be part of that. And look, the key, I think, for me is that the strikers are heading down to Hobart for the match against the Canes, and it presents this perfect opportunity for Harvey to come in at 3. The Hurricanes have allowed the second most points to batsmen this season, averaging 39 GDS points, which is about 7, almost 8 points above the batting average for the whole tournament so far of all batsmen. When we filter by bat position specifically, it's the number 3s that have actually been doing all of the damage against the Hurricanes. They're averaging 60 GDS points, and that's thanks to the likes of Bancroft's 83, Callaway's 78 GDS points earlier in the season. Ninja Stadium itself as well has offered quite a few runs this season. We obviously saw Mitch Marsh and Aaron Hardy combine for almost 200 runs between them only a few games ago. And look, in a shortened round, we've got plenty of 50-50 options. I'm going to take a bit of a risk, and it might not be in my main squad, but I'm going to take a bit of a risk on Mac Harvey, and hopefully he contributes with both bat and gloves, and we get a decent score of 50 plus from him.
I don't think he's Alex Johnson, Will Kennedy vibes. If you're going to go for a pod in a GDS sport, Oz Cricket is certainly the one to do it in. We saw his performance last week, and the moment he gets going, and I think he had a couple of sort of 11 back-to-back, 11 runs back-to-back, and then he had that really nice 38. Yeah, looked really good, didn't he? If he can get going, there's no reason why he can't score some runs. And look, I think he would have outscored the likes of Josh Philippi, Bubba Azam, Chrissy Lynn, Matty Renshaw probably combined. You know, the 4 of them probably put up the same amount of points, and that's why looking for some pods in Oz Cricket is the way to go. And yeah, look, you could have egg on your face. You could get out a first baller, or you could be pretty happy and fist pumping because he gets a decent score under his belt again. That's just the nature of fantasy cricket. But the fact that he's got the gloves as well should mean a couple of safe points there behind the stumps, potentially.
Yeah, love it. Alrighty, those are our pods for round 11. Hopefully we've given you some decent information, and when teams are named in about probably 25 minutes or so, we might circle back and just have a quick chat about the teams tonight and see if there's any discrepancies or any changes that we want to make. But other than that, let's jump into round 12. Obviously on screen you can see that we've got all 8 teams featuring in round 12 across 2 days of cricket. Unreal to see. We've got a bunch of games happening across the weekend. The first game, as we said, kicks off 3 p.m. at the Gabba, the Heat versus the Thunder. I am taking my son along to that, and for some reason, I don't understand why, but he's a Melbourne Renegades fan and he's a Sydney Thunder fan. And I know why. It's because of David Warner, and that's fair enough. But he's really pumped to go and cheer on the Sydney Thunder, and I'll be having my Heat jersey on for sure and be cheering the boys home. But it should be a great game. It looks to be some clear skies. It's been pretty great weather over the last few weeks, and hopefully it should stay that way. The all-player average at the Gabba is 40.3, one of the highest in the competition. So we're obviously going to look at loading up there if we can. First innings versus second innings batting, about 30.7 in the first and 27 in the second. So definitely an opportunity to maybe target some of those batsmen in the first innings. And then since last season, the Heat have allowed an average of 36 to Thunder players, whilst the Thunder have only allowed just less than 35 to Heat players. So not a huge discrepancy there, but just something to consider. Then we roll around Saturday night, and no doubt everyone will have their eyes glued to this one, the Melbourne Derby once again. What's that? The Melbourne Mace. They're going to run out at the end of the competition. Look like a bit of a heavy thing for Chief to handle at the end of that after he just put the game to bed. But it should be another absolute cracker down at Marvel Stadium. Once again, clear skies there. All player average there is 37. First innings versus second innings, almost identical in 21 runs. And then since the start of last season, both teams have allowed just over 39 GDS points to each other. So there's almost nothing in this comp. It's almost a dead heat in all aspects. So it should be a great matchup there. Then we turn to Sunday. Sunday afternoon kicks off with the Sixers up against the Hurricanes. That is an early time of 1:05 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, the key here is there could be a bit of rain. There's 60% chance, about 13 mil of rain from midday until later in the evening. So it's really important you keep your eyes on that. Obviously, Sunday midday, you want to get onto Discord, onto Twitter, wherever you can to double check, get your KO, etc. on so you can see whether that game is going ahead. If it does, some decent stats here to back up some top performers in this game. All player average 38. First innings bat really low of 22 versus the chasing batting getting just above 33 GDS points. Last season, the Canes restricted the Sixers to an average of 33, while the Sixers allowed the Canes a massive 40 GDS points per player per game. So there's definitely an opportunity there. And then the final game of the round that Sunday night, kicking off at 6:15 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time at Adelaide Oval, is Strikers up against the Scorchers. The all-player average, we've got the second lowest scoring ground. The average is 34.4 GDS points. The first innings bat, as a result, is only 20 GDS points. Then the chasing batting average is closer to 35.5. Over the past two seasons, the Strikers have allowed a massive 44 GDS points per game to the Scorchers players, while Scorchers have limited the Strikers just 31.5 points. Boys, there's a lot of information there to digest, a lot of important points. Is there something in particular that I've said there that has got you excited or a little bit nervous?
I'm a little bit nervous. There's a lot of information going on there, and it looks like quite a few different matchups that I potentially do want to target. But I think probably because I'm going to the game once again, I'm going to be targeting the Heat versus Thunder game. I think we've seen so many big totals on that track this season. It looks like a batter's paradise. The ball's coming on nice and good for all batters. There's not much difference between the average between Thunder and Heat players when they play each other. But I think later on when we start to look at like the matchup and some certain players, they seem to have a bit of success against each other. So that's probably where I'm leaning towards most of my players. But once again, there is quite a bit of I'm probably looking to avoid the Sixers versus Hurricanes just purely for that weather concern. If it looks like it's going to clear up, then I might potentially chuck in some players because purely for the fact that the Strikers versus Scorchers is known as a low-scoring ground. So I don't know, potentially having a bit of flexibility might be the way to go this round.
Yeah, I think that's important. We always promote that having flexibility and knowing your options before heading into the round or even heading into a particular game is super important. And we'll touch on that again later on. But before we do that, let's jump into our previews and let's look at the bat wicketkeeper position to begin with. And on screen, we've got the top 5 performing batsmen based on averages at the moment, or batsmen wicketkeepers, excuse me. At the top there is Sammy Harper, who also has the golden cap at the moment with the most runs in the competition. He's averaging 73 GS points, closely followed by our cheat code in Cooper Connolly. Matty Moore has had a couple of down game, but hopefully he bounces back this weekend. Chowdhury's still up there. He's having a great knock this season. And then Davey Warner has moved into that top 5 as well with those back-to-back big performances. Let's kick off with Stu. Mate, where are you going with this round with your batsmen?
Yeah, so many options to choose from, hey, and all of those 5 on the board there look like great plays. But I'm going to go a little bit off script for at least 1 or 2 teams. And I like what I see from Finn Allen in patches, and I don't think I can leave him out of all 3 teams in case he goes massive. So the 45.5 GDS point average isn't amazing through 6 games, but when you look at that, he's only gone past that number with the bat just once. So he's only scored more than 45 once. That was a big 79 from 38 against our wonderful Heat at the Gabba. So we know that he's got we know he's that explosive sort of rocks or diamonds type player. But he's actually showed some really promising signs throughout the tournament, which makes me believe that, look, he still probably has some big scores in him, and I don't want to miss out on those. Prior to his last start 8, he'd actually passed 10 on every occasion this tournament, but he could only go past 20 twice, which resulted in a pretty nice 43 and that 79. So, yeah, quite incredibly, he's actually hit 15 sixes and just the 10 fours. He's the only player to have double-digit sixes and fours and go more sixes than fours, which is pretty extraordinary. So a clear demonstration of his superb power hitting, which obviously makes him a threat at any given point in time. And if he can see them cleanly at the start of that innings, he's going to clear the ropes and get beyond the fielders pretty easily. Despite the finger injury, which forced him to relinquish the gloves to Laurie Evans in the last match, I don't actually mind if that continues. We're not sure if it will. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think that's too much of an issue. He's been taking quite a few sort of junk time catches, fielding down there at long on or long off. And we also saw last night, he was probably millimeters from a run out. He had a powerful cannon from the boundary and a big stretch just sort of saved the batsman there. And Finn Allen could have had a decent score despite failing with the bat, with the catch and a potential run out there. What I like so much about him and this fixture is that there are so many other batsmen to choose, and he probably does come in at a bit of a pod. But we've spoken at length about the Adelaide Oval situation, and Davey Warner proved us correct again last round, where the team batting first isn't going to score well at the top of the innings. Matty Short and Chris Lynn, two big failures. The team batting second, they've always had a top order batsman go on for a big score, and Davey Warner obviously proved that. So if the stars can align and the Scorchers can bat second, I'm going to be super confident rolling Finney Allen out there in that last match of the round. If things go against that plan and the Scorchers have to bat first, I'm less confident. But it does mean that if I'm game enough, I can pivot across to Chrissy Lynn, who also went ballistic down there in the second innings and only to fail the match after in the first innings. So if I get spooked, it could be Linny, but I do think Finn Allen is in for a big one.
Yeah, and there we go. We touch on it again. Having that pivot option is super important. We talked about that bat flip last week or last round, and we obviously saw the result of that with the Warner versus Lynn debate, and we can see signs there again. So it's really important that you keep an eye on who wins the bat flip, who's batting first, who's batting second, and how that's going to dictate your lineup. Look, the other thing just quietly is I feel like I used to be a decent wicketkeeper, and if they're getting the likes of Laurie Evans behind the stumps there, maybe they could give me a call up. I might be able to get a gig in the Big Bash the way they're going. They're getting pretty deep in their wicketkeepers, and I know the Aussies have talked about potentially throwing Glenn Maxwell the gloves in the T20 World Cup if they need as well. Maybe I'll put my hand up for that too. But anyway, I digress. Look, let's jump into Haz. Who are you going for this week in your bat wicketkeeper spot?
It's going to be Matt Renshaw, going to continue the theme of targeting those Heat players against the Thunder. He's got a pretty good matchup, and obviously the venue as well line up pretty perfectly in his favour. He's averaging 56 points for the season, but that number jumps significantly when you filter for games just at the Gabba. Across his 3 appearances there so far this season, he is averaging 93 points with a low score of 65. Underlining just how comfortable he looks batting at his home ground. And I guess that's no surprise when you consider the Gabba has been the most batter-friendly venue in the competition, allowing batsmen to score at an average of 42.9 points per game, which is the highest of all venues. If the Heat bat first, that appeal only grows further, with that number jumping up to 50 points on average, making it an ideal setup for Renshaw. The Thunder have allowed 41.9 points to batsmen this season, which is also the most in the competition. And Renshaw has already shown he can score well against them. He scored 55 in that earlier matchup this season at Monaco Oval, and he followed that on, which followed that on from a 60-point performance at the Gabba last season against the Thunder. So, and then potentially what really boosts Renshaw's appeal, and Dill, you spoke about this at length last week, is that added all-round contribution now that he's been given more overs with the ball. So across his last 4 games, he's bowled 6 overs and taken 3 wickets, giving him that much safer floor than most batter-only options have outside of Cooper Connolly. Even if the bat doesn't fully fire, just like it didn't last week, he's still potentially capable of finding points, which make him a very strong all-round play this round.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about him at length last week. I do love Matty Renshaw. My only concern is where he ends up batting. We've seen him bat at 4 times this season and bat at this season. Batting at 4, he's only averaging 16.7 runs. Batting at 3, he's averaging a massive 59 runs. So that could be a concern. Obviously, Mick Sweeney's back, and that sort of plays into that role as well. But as you say, he's just on fire in terms of when he plays at home. And we sat there and we watched how competitive he was, how aggressive he was, and how much he wanted to get in and have a bowl when he was standing out in the field, and to the point where he was shooing kids away from signatures, from autographs, because he was trying to focus on his role in the team, which obviously sucks for those kids. But it's great to see from a Heat perspective that he's really honed in on what he needs to get done in the field. So we know he's a competitor, and hopefully he has a big game at the Gabba against the Thunder. And look, talking about the Thunder, my keeper for this week is from the Thunder, and it's Sam Billings. And again, it really just comes down to that matchup of the Heat and the Thunder up against the Gabba. We've already seen some absolute massive scores at the Gabba this season. 3 games have been played there so far. They're averaging almost 400 runs per game. I think it's 395 or something like that per game, which is absolutely ridiculous. And it really doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. Billing comes into this match probably after some really much needed form. He sort of hasn't had a great crack at it this season so far. He's had some at-bats of duck 20 and 1, which has really seen his average plummet from 40 plus GDS points down into the 30s. And when we've got a whole bunch of wicket keepers that are succeeding in terms of Harper, Philippi, obviously we've seen some up and down games, etc. Jilks even from the team as well. Sam Billings might be someone that we're not necessarily looking at straight away, but fortunately he's been keeping afloat with those much needed fielding points behind the stumps. This season Billings has scored over 20 runs 4 out of the 7 times that he's been at bat. However, he's only converted that to a half century once, which is sort of similar to what he did last season. He only had that one massive score of 72 last season. So that might be all that he offers, and that might be sort of his floor and ceiling, and he doesn't go any higher than sort of that 20, except for that one game. But I feel like this could be a different crack at it for a couple of reasons, I think. Firstly, the issue, I guess, for Billings that I see is he doesn't really have a set batting role in the team. We've sort of seen him slide up and down that order. He's been in at first drop at times. He's slid down to 5. Look, he's had 3 bats at 5, and that sort of seems to be where he's a little bit more comfortable. He has hit that 51, a 23, and we'll just ignore the duck that he had against the Scorchers. But that's still some decent outings there compared to some lower scores that he's had elsewhere. It's not just the talent that we know, though, that sort of leads me to picking Billings, but it's also the stats that sort of tell that story. And the Heat have faced 7 wicket keepers this season so far, and they've allowed an average of 56 GDS points to them, which is easily 12 points more than anyone else in the competition when facing against wicket keepers. We've obviously seen Seifert's 139. We saw Matty Jilks 94. We've seen Harper's 64. And even our mate Harry Nielsen was able to score 31 GDS points against them earlier in the season. And if Harry Nielsen can score anything more than 0, he's doing well. So obviously the Heat are able to allow quite a few points to wicket keepers. Sam Billings himself has already scored 46 GDS points against them this season, so really important. The other thing to consider is that the fielding stats for keepers at the Gabba is quite high as well. We've seen 6 catches behind the stumps in only 3 matches at the Gabba. So I think all of that leads me to playing Billings as quite a big pod, I think, in the week when we've got every wicketkeeper available at our disposal. I think Billings will be well down the list of players that people have in their minds, and I think potentially he could be a difference maker for 1 or 2 teams of mine.
Gee, I nearly fell off my chair when you said Harry Nielsen scored 31 points. That's like a big 150 for anyone else. If he can score that many points, I think you're definitely onto something. Dill, quick 2-parter here. Sammy Harper obviously plays tonight. If he has another monster score, are you still rolling out Billings and maybe Harper? And are you willing to play 3 players in the same game? Obviously, targeting that game at the Gabba will be fortuitous. Has given us plenty of reasons why Renshaw should be played. Davey Warner's in some superb form. Can you go those 2 plus Billings and then Harper as well? What if he scores another big 40 tonight?
I say it each and every week, and Harper's probably the only one that seems to prove us wrong, but I just hate chasing previous week's points. And Sam Harper is just a different kettle of fish at the moment. He's just in some form, so it'd be hard not to play him as well as Billings. I think I would fade Warner out of all of those. And that's a big call, but yeah, I think we had a couple of good games from him, and I think that potentially the Heat might have his number this week.
Huge.
It's big. I'll hang my hat on that, and we'll move straight into the all-rounders before I get in myself too much trouble. On screen, we can see the 6 best all-rounders this season so far in terms of averages. Stoinis at the top of the list, closely followed by Jackie Edwards, who's dropped down that list quite a little bit. Jack Wildermuth in at averaging 67, a long way down from his 100-plus average that we see earlier in the season. Aaron Hardy, who was one of the biggest disappointments to start the season off, has returned to some form. Matty Short dropping down that list as well, and then Tom Curran sneaking in. Be interesting to see what that list looks like after these 2 rounds and whether the Curran brothers are sitting pretty at the top. Stu, who are you going for this week in terms of your all-rounders? We've got so many options from all teams. Is there one in particular that you're really keen on?
Short answer is no. There's not one that sort of stands out. I'm going to hang my hat on and play in all 3 teams. I think I'm going to diversify and try to get as many of these guns across all 3 teams as possible. And the one I'm going to speak about a little bit this evening isn't even on that top 6 averaging list. And look, I'm definitely not salty after a late change from Jamie Overton to Dan Sams. When the Thunder opted to bowl first in their most recent fixture at Adelaide, which cost me exactly 50 points. I just thought that the Thunder bowling first meant that Sams would be amongst the wickets. He got the 19th over, and Wes Jaeger, I think, took 2 in the 20th or something ridiculous. But I digress. Look, with all 8 teams to select from, I like the appeal of Sams again this week, given his matchup with the Heat in Brisbane. You've both already spoken at length about how many points is likely to be available, and let's hope that does happen. And we know that Dan Sams can get it done with both bat and ball. So the Gabba will provide plenty of scoring opportunities for him with the bat if he gets out to the crease. And given the explosive nature and of the match that's likely to happen, as well as the brittle Heat batting lineup, there's every chance that he can get amongst the wickets as well. But it's not the runs that you need with the bat from Sams, although he has been out in the middle every single match that he's played this season. So because the Thunder can also lose some wickets early on and through the middle, he's always found himself at the crease too, and even been promoted toward the end of the innings for a bit of pinch hitting. But yeah, if he can get out there and blast a quick, 20 odd, then that's setting up for a great score before he even gets the ball in hand. And he's actually bowled really nicely at the Gabba, and he has some really good figures there in his career. I think he's bowled there on 8 occasions, and he's claimed a number of wickets in those few games. Actually, it might only be 3 matches, and 8 wickets. Yeah, 3 matches at the Gabba, 8 wickets, and he's getting a wicket every 7 balls, which is pretty impressive. He's currently sharing the most amount of wickets for all-rounder eligible bowlers with Jackie Edwards. They're both on top there with 11, and there's only 3 out-and-out bowlers that have more than him with 12. So he's already doing well with the ball. We just haven't quite seen enough with the bat, but he's definitely capable. At the Gabba, 8 wickets in 3 matches, despite going for 10 and over. So the batsmen are getting after him. He's had figures of 4 for 51, 3 for 38 already this season. It's clear that he's going to take some stick. We know that, particularly if the ground is offering up to the Thunder, someone's going to need to take some wickets. And so with his excellent change-ups, and we know that they did chase down that massive 250. But if the game script works against them at all, if they're slightly off their game because it's an earlier fixture or whatever the case might be, Dan Sams is just the type of guy that can cash in with the monster score and pay off for any pod hunters out there.
Yeah, look, I feel like I need to apologise to you, Stu. I know I talked about Dan Sams as the potential player of the last round, and I did the same thing. I put him into my team and over Jamie Overton as well, or in a couple of sides. So that's probably my fault. I'll put my hand up there. Look, Mel's put a pretty good question into the chat. Will Mitch Owen play a decent game this season? Look, it wasn't too bad last game. He's struggling a little bit, and I feel like there must be one around the corner. We continue saying that for so many players, don't we? That there must just be one big score around the corner. And we saw it with Lead, and we saw it with Warner. We saw it with Aaron Hardy. We saw it with Mitch Marsh. Is Mitch Owen the next one to have a big score?
Short answer, yeah, he's got to at some point. He's teased us a little bit. A couple of 40s, 30s. He's coming off that 62. His time's running out. let's hope he can do it sooner rather than later, because I'm still playing his all-star in one of my squads.
Yep, same here. Alrighty, Haz, who are you looking at as your all-rounder for this round?
Before I get into my all-rounder, it's good to see you follow Dill's advice, Stuart. If you went with mine with Jamie Overton, you would have got that extra 50 points, but that's all right.
Overton was in one team. I had him in both. So I didn't have no Overtons. It was, I just, had Sam's in the other, where I should have just stuck strong with Overton. So, sorry, Haz.
No, that all good. I accept that apology. Despite a slight hiccup last time out against the Renegades, I am expecting a big bounce back from Marcus Stoinis this round. Probably looks like I'm taking the easy option because he is the highest averaging all-rounder for the season with that average of 76 points. But he's just been one of the most reliable scorers in the competition so far this season. He's gone below 50 points just once all season, and that came in their most recent outing against the Renegades in the first edition of the Melbourne Derby, where he managed to score only 31 points. That matchup still shapes up nicely for Marcus Stoinis, with the Renegades allowing 45.5 points to opposition all-rounders this season, which is the third highest in the competition. Add into that Stoinis' ultra-competitive nature, and I expect him to come out firing after the way the first derby ended. Will Sutherland smashed 16 runs off that final over to steal the win and the first matchup, and that won't sit well with Stoinis. And historically, he's pretty much the type of player who will respond strongly for his side. The Stars have experimented heavily with their batting order over the last couple of games, and it really hasn't paid off that much for them, resulting in those two straight losses after starting the season 4-0. Stoinis hasn't had more than 2 games in a row batting in the same position this season. He's come in from anywhere between 3 and 7, I believe it is, which has made his spot in the batting order pretty much unpredictable, and pretty much any of the Stars, really. However, he remains a genuine 3-dimensional scorer, contributing 7 wickets, 5 catches, and a run-out this season. If the Stars revert back to what worked earlier in the year and give Stoinis some more time out in the middle to get set before they take the power surge, and everything clicks for him. He's only been bowling 3 overs a game, just purely for the fact that the bowling lineup has been so good. If he does potentially pick up a wicket, he hasn't picked up a wicket the last 2 games. You wouldn't want to miss out on what potentially could be a big ceiling game in his bounce back Melbourne Derby.
Yeah, how crazy is it to think that we're all over Stoinis, we're all over Curran, and Glenn Maxwell is the left out all-rounder this season. He's been very poor, beside that one game that I continue to talk about where the game was already won and he came out and slogged 30-odd. Pretty crazy considering we were sitting here last season, Stu, and we were debating which Stars all-rounder we should play each and every round because we just didn't know which one was going to fire. So, I'm all in on Stoinis again this week. I think he's going to be the top scoring player, and obviously that will allow me to have a win in Bro Down Showdown if that's the case. Look, talking about Stars, there are so many Stars players that we could play, and like I said, last season the question was which Stars all-rounder should we play. Now it seems to switch this season. We're talking about which Sixers all-rounder we should play. You already touched on the massive list of all-rounders that they've got. Sam Curran's now included. We've also got Moses Omriks, who hasn't fired at all and probably shouldn't be considered an all-rounder. Joel Davies is in there, and he's doing some great things at the back end of an innings, both with the ball and with the bat as well. But for me, it's all about who they're playing on Sunday afternoon. Remember, we're talking about round 12 here as well for anyone that's just joined us. We're talking about round 12, Sunday afternoon at the SCG. The Sixers are hosting the Hurricanes. And the important thing, as we mentioned at the top of the show, is there is some rain around, and we've got to keep an eye on this. So I'm going to preface my analysis with always have your pivot option ready to go, particularly in this game. If you're going to play any Sixers all-rounders, if you're looking at maybe a Bo Webster for the Hurricanes who's coming back from Ashes duty and should line up for them, just be mindful that the rain could come. If the game's rained out, you get 0 points if your player is in the team at lockout based on that 1:05 time slot. So really important to consider that. You've got to make sure that you have that pivot option. The Strikers and Scorchers do play later that Sunday evening, so you do have some options there that you've got plenty of options, and I can talk about them in a moment. But look, the Stars all-rounder that I'm targeting if this game goes ahead is actually Jack Edwards. And again, maybe it's the easy way out, similar to you, because Jack Edwards had a really strong start to the season, but it's tailed off a little bit the last couple of weeks. He's still currently averaging 70, which has him up near the top of the list for all-rounders, as you can see on screen. But in the first 3 games of the season, his average was a massive 107. His rolling 3-game average now has dropped all the way down to 33 GDS points in the last 3 weeks, but it has been boosted by his wicket-taking ability rather than his batting prowess. He's taken 3 wickets in the last 3 weeks versus at one bat, he's been out for a duck, which is not great to see. But I'm still keen for a bounce back from him in this particular game if it does go ahead, as I said, against the Hurricanes, because the Canes love to give away GDS points to all-rounders. They're currently allowing an average of 50 GDS points to all-rounders. And then if we filter by batting positions, there's 2 key positions for all-rounders that have been doing all the damage. One of them's 4, but more importantly, the other one is 6, where we've seen Jackie Edwards play. He's played 5 of his 6 games at number 6 for this season. So get on Jack Edwards, lock and load on Jedwards, but have a planned pivot in mind, ready to go. Look, you've got Overton, Short, Hardy, Marsh, any one of those. If you're not playing them in your team, make sure you have them in your back pocket, ready to flip that over if we see any potential likelihood that this game doesn't go ahead. If not, if this game is all steam ahead, then I would definitely be looking at playing Jedwards this week.
Yeah, I like the fact that like you said, you got to be flexible there, especially if, not just with Jack Edwards, if any Sixers or Hurricanes players that people might be keen on to have that pivot option in that last game with the Strikers versus Scorchers. But Jack Edwards, he should be good. Like you said, his 3-round average was it 33? And that just doesn't really describe the player that he was at the start of the season. He's in a bit of a form slump. He got a golden duck with the bat last time out against the Heat, so I only expect him to bounce back from that. He still gets a wicket a game, so he's got a good floor. I'd definitely be targeting him if that game does go ahead, even though the Sixers, like we say, we've got a million all-rounder options and you could roll out a whole team. I think Jack Edwards is still probably the pick of all those.
Yeah, unreal. And look, obviously teams are starting to come in. The Sixers have won the bat flip. They've elected to bowl first. Such as Fife has put in the chat there that Tom Curran is out. So we're just waiting for the final team list for tonight's game. Remember, everyone, we are talking about our analysis now of round 12, even though round 11 is about to kick off. So make sure that you jump on and have a look at those teams. We'll try and get them in the chat when we can. Does that change anything before we get the teams out? And then we'll start with you, Stu. Does that change anything in terms of if you were going to play Tom Curran, what's your pivot now? Or did you not have him in any of your sides, so it's not too much of a bother?
Yeah, I actually didn't have him in any of my sides this round. I've been sort of gambling against him, given that he just hasn't spent any meaningful time at the crease and with the bat, that is. And Siddle and Ralph are obviously doing really good things with the ball later on in the innings, which is where a lot of the wickets are being taken. Curran obviously had a pretty nice purple patch at one point where he got a couple of back-to-back 2-wicket games and that sort of thing. But just the fact that he wasn't getting enough done with the bat was enough to turn me off him. So, yeah, that changes things now. No Tommy Curran there. What else is a bit annoying for me is I had the likes of Siddle and Ralph in a lot of teams. I don't know if I can run with both of them now, given that the Sixers are bowling first. I typically like to play those two when the Stars are bowling first, so I might have to change some thought process there. I do know, however, that it is Peter Siddle's 100th BBL game. So if you're a milestone man, we remember what he did on his birthday in the Ashes. If you're a milestone man, 100 BBL games, is this a Siddle masterclass? I
do think Siddle, it is his up week. I think Ralph had the up week last game. Okay. So everything points towards Siddle this round.
And just quickly, I put in the chat as well as such as Fife, Liam Hatcher is the replacement for Tom Curran this week. He's an out-and-out bowler. Boys, I own the Liam Hatcher legend. Is that a sign that I've just got to play him in Champion? Is that?
You'd be silly
do I just fade both Siddle and Ralph and just play the Liam Hatcher legend?
I'm not going to give you a yes or a no, but I want you to.
I would love to, just for the fact of cheering him on, but no, I don't think I will. Look, Curran, the official word is Curran has some hip soreness, so it's not too serious, but obviously needs a spell. Maybe he's a bit scared coming up against his brother. If his brother's named, maybe that's the case. He just doesn't want to face up against his brother before leading into the back end of the season. You can see the team list there. Harper at the top, Tommy Rogers opening with him, Campbell Callaway doing some good things at first drop. Once again, though, he's definitely looking more like a out-and-out Ashes test player rather than a BBL player. Blake McDonald's done a couple of good things recently as well. Stoinis and Maxwell, we know they might go up or down. We just don't know what's going to happen with that lineup there. Cartwright can hit a ball. Mitchell Swepson, your pod of the round. My man, Liam Hatcher, Ralph, and Siddle to round out their team. Oh, Mel, I don't know. Mel's telling me I should do it. You won't. I'm really susceptible to peer pressure, Mel. That it does not take much at all, as the boy know. Just one little whisper in my ear, and I'm out. I'm away. So I think that might be all I need to get Liam Hatcher into my side. Thanks, Mel. Alrighty, let's jump across to the bowlers for round 12 while we're waiting for the Sydney Sixers team, and we'll just run through the top averaging bowlers of the season so far, and maybe we might jump into some analysis of round 12. Here are the bowlers so far this season. Gurinder Sandhu continues to be the top averaging bowler on 63 GDS points per game. Harris Ralph and Peter Siddle fighting for that second spot, only 2 points splits them up. Hassan Ali on averaging 50. We just said that unfortunately he has been dropped for this round for Shamsi to come back, but we're just suggesting potentially keep an eye on that team list for round 12 because he may come back into the side. They might continue to between the two of them. And then our man Xavier Bartlett averaging 48 GDS points. And talking about that, man, do you want to get into your bowler for round 12?
Yeah, not a problem. I would love to talk about Gurinder Sandhu again after his performance last week, that big 100 that got me to third in Challenger. But I can't go two highest averaging players in a row, so I'm going to target that man X, who returns to the Gabba this round, a venue where he's enjoyed plenty of success this season. He's averaging a solid 48 points for the year, which has him sitting as the fifth highest averaging bowler overall, as you can see on screen. But that number jumps significantly once again when you filter for Gabba games only, where Bartlett is averaging 70.3 points, highlighting just how well that extra bounce and carry suits his bowling. We've talked about at length how many runs the Gabba has produced this season, but X doesn't seem to really mind. He still takes his 1 or 2 wickets a game, and he's also been chipping in with the bat. So I think that average there, the venue just suits him all round. He's taken the 9 wickets so far this season, with 6 of those coming in just the 3 games at the Gabba. He's gone wicketless only once, and that actually came earlier in the season in the matchup against the Thunder at Manuka Oval, and he just scored a season low of just 4 points. That performance looked like a pretty clear outlier, though, especially with his next lowest score being 35 for the season. And I expect to be keen to make amends this time around on a ground where he's consistently thrived for the last couple of seasons. Another factor that potentially makes Bartlett more appealing is the Heat's ongoing batting struggles. The top order's failed to consistently fire, and he's been given more opportunities with the bat. We saw the last time at the Gabba against the Stars where he chipped in with a very handy 21 runs at the back end of the innings, adding valuable points on top of his bowling output. So while wickets will always drive Bartlett's ceiling, his ability to contribute with both bat and ball gives him that much safer floor this round. And pretty much all things considered, Bartlett shapes as once again a strong play at home against the Thunder.
Yeah, 100%. We love Xavier Bartlett and the things he can do with the ball. Obviously, that one of those down games that you did mention, he did have the captaincy there, so that obviously weighed pretty heavy on him, and as a result, he didn't take a wicket in that game. But we talked a few weeks ago about him returning to the Gabba and having a massive output there, and no doubt he will have another one in this round. And look, we obviously have continued to talk about this game as one of the games to target for round 12 at the Gabba, so we're going to have plenty of Thunder and Heat players to be able to cheer on when we go to the game. But it's obviously also important to consider where you're diversifying as well, and consider how your teams are made up based on some of the options that we give you. Talking about that, back to tonight's game, we now have a Sixers lineup. Enriques and Azam opening the batting, Flip coming in at first drop. Shaw is in for Hughes, which is pretty big news. Curran then coming in at number 5. Jordan Silk still remains in the team, but pushing Edwards down 1, which I don't necessarily like. That's maybe got some question marks for me this round. Joel Davies, as I said, has done some great things, coming in at 8. Dwarcius now at 9, Menenti 10, Abbott 11. It's tough for me now to consider any other all-rounders from the Sixers outside of Curran and maybe Edwards. Is that sort of where you're thinking, boys? Sort of Abbott being way down low, Dwarcius being down low as well. There's no real contribution with the bat, or unlikely to be a huge contribution with the bat that we've seen from them in the past. Are you going to just keep away from them and just stick with Curran, or are you thinking about maybe playing a pod? Haz, do you want to kick us off?
I'm really thinking that Curran might replace Edwards in maybe one of my sides. Like, I was playing Curran as a pod, but I think where he's been named now, if he is coming in at number 5, above Jack Edwards, Curran will still get 4 overs potentially with the ball alongside Edwards. I think, if it's one of those two that you're playing, and I think I'm leaning towards Sam Curran at this point, but I'll probably play both across all 3 teams.
Yeah. Stu, are you looking at Abbott or Dwarcius at all, or just sticking with those 2 players in Curran and Edwards?
No, I'm not. I'm only just going Curran, actually. I think Edwards will be in one squad, Curran in 2 squads. Looks like Philippi will open. I think I like him there a lot better than at 3. He can take on the new ball with the field up early on. He's been out of form the last 2 matches, hasn't really got going. I think, his spot is definitely at number 1. I'm glad they've made that move. And I can see Sammy Curran, Jack Edwards, even Benny Dwarcius, we've seen in the past. There's every chance they come in ahead of Silk as well if they are looking for big runs. But look, these 3 teams in or even 4 teams in the Strikers and Hurricanes tomorrow with the Sixers and the Stars, that they've got so many good all-rounders from those 4 teams. It's so hard to choose and who you're going to leave out. So of that lot, I like Sammy Curran the most. But I've got to have Jack Edwards somewhere, given the form he's been in, and I can't leave out Stoyne. So it makes things tough, doesn't it? But that's why we love it, boys.
Okay, I'm going to throw an impromptu question. I know we were talking round 12, but we'll bounce back to round 11. You talked about the difficulties in all-rounders position. Strikers have obviously got 2 key ones in Short and Overton. Are you going to fade either of those 2 this week? Is Matty Short potentially a fade the way he's been performing the last couple of games? Stu, what do you reckon?
In my 2 main teams, no, I can't fade Matty Short just because of his ceiling. And we've seen that ceiling game, I think, twice already this season. I think he's had scores of 135, which is monster. He's had an 83 and a 61. And he's doing that when he's not even scoring the huge scores with the bat, only passing 50 twice. He's getting it done in the field and he's bowling plenty of overs as well. I can't leave him out, given that ceiling. I can't leave out Stoyne. So it's just current from the Sixers for me in my main squad.
Yeah, and Haz, are you sort of the same ideas? Yeah, sorry, we got the end of it. Yeah. Haz, are you got sort of similar idea? Are you running round 11 with that same kind of mindset of Stoyne, Curran, Short, and then maybe your Overtons or maybe your Edwards, or having a little pod in there? Or are you thinking maybe Short's a fade for you as well?
Nah, I'm with Stu. I think Short's in my 2 main sides this round, alongside Stoyne and probably Overton. I think the one that I'd probably look to differ would probably between Curran, Edwards, and then maybe throwing in a pod, like someone said in the chat earlier, Mitch Owen. He's got a fire eventually. I don't want to say it, but Glenn Maxwell, I know the Stars are batting first, could be a good option, but he's named at 6 and he's not in good form. I'd only play him in my pod side, but in my main 2, I'm looking at Stoyne, Overton, Short, and probably Sam Curran, like Stu.
Yeah. And look, just on Glenn Maxwell, he's only taken 1 wicket, I think, all season so far. So you don't have a lot to play with when it comes to Glenn Maxwell. If he gets out for a duck or 1 or 2 like he did the last couple of games, there's not much on offer there. Alrighty, I think that's enough for round 11. I know a lot of us are going to have to go and make some changes to our teams, I would say. So let's wrap up the bowlers Brodown Showdown and let's head into an awesome round 11. Stu, you are really impressed with a particular scorcher on debut last round.
Yeah, how good was he? David Payne, he was ultra impressive in his first match for the Scorchers. Despite taking just the 1 wicket, his figures don't look that amazing. 1 for 23 from all 4 overs, but that did include 11 dot balls. And obviously what the box score doesn't show is just how frequently he troubled the batsman. Plus he had 2 wickets go begging with a pretty simple drop at mid-off there and then a contentious Ashton Turner no catch off his bowling. Any cricketer probably looks at that and says, yeah, it looks out. But based on the rules and the laws of the game, it's technically not out. But to me, that stuck. Regardless, look, if one of those catches had stuck, we'd be talking about David Payne a lot more, I think, because he would have, been up in the 50s for his score, and that's been a really good score for bowlers so far this season. Not only do I think he's a great round 12 play, but because of that, I think he shapes as a really good pod, given that we do have so many good options available, and his teammate in Jai Richardson is definitely the more household name there for the Scorchers, someone that we've seen rip in and take plenty of wickets in the past. And I think David Payne cards are pretty limited as well on the transfer market. So he didn't miss a beat, David Payne did, after arriving in the country, basically just hours after steering the Desert Vipers to that tournament victory alongside Sam Curran. He delivered a devastating 3-wicket haul in the final over of the first innings, which put his team firmly on top in that final. He played 9 matches. He took 17 wickets and was just one of 5 bowlers to take a 4-wicket innings and one of 6 bowlers to bowl a maiden throughout that tournament. There are 8 teams to pick from, boys, in round 12. So we should see a high disparity amongst all positions, but I'm backing Payne in to continue that form and probably go 1 or 2 wickets better and get a nice one in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, I love it. And look, I'll be honest, when we put this show together, we do our own notes and we don't necessarily look at what each other are doing or have a look at the players that they are going to talk about. And I just chucked in a player that I was really keen on, and it was Jai Richardson. And I had no idea that you were going to talk about his teammate in David Payne. And so this is going to set up like quite a good little competition between us this round as well. And look, let's jump into it. I talked about Jai Richardson last week, and I'm going to talk about him again. And look, I do love what Jai Richardson has to offer. He's just an unreal bowler, isn't he? And he seems to be past all those injury concerns, and that's put behind him. He's in some form, and he's looking great. He returned to the BBL after a short stint with the Ashes squad, obviously had a bit of an impact there as well, but he made an impact as he returned. First, he hit that quick fire 10 runs, included that 6, I think off the 3rd or 4th ball, and then he got a little bit too greedy, as probably most bowlers do, and he tried just bite off a little bit too much in a quick single, turned it into a 2, and he was run out, unfortunately. I think he was probably halfway up the pitch on his second run. But look, he hit back from there, and he took the ball and he got a wicket with the ball in hand throughout his 4 overs. He then added 9 dot balls as well. Obviously, the pick of the bowlers in that game was Joel Paris, but the thing is that Joel Paris left that game with a groin injury, I believe, and we haven't heard anything yet. But I'm assuming a groin injury is never a good thing, particularly for a bowler. I've never had one myself, but I assume that he probably won't feature in this upcoming round 12, which means that the bulk of the work's going to be split between that bloke that you just talked about in Payne and then Richardson as well. And I don't see a world where I play both Payne and Richardson in the same team because we do have a plethora of options. But I think that they're going to be diversified, as you say, across a couple of different teams. And obviously, pending weather, that's going to change things up as well. But I really like both options. And I like Jai Richardson just as much as I like Payne. But I'm going to have him across multiple teams or multiple squads for sure. One of the main reasons, I think, for potentially both players is strike vulnerability to bowlers this season. They've allowed an average of 42 GDS points to the position, which is 4 points on average clear of the next best allowing to an opposition. So they're way ahead in terms of allowing points to bowlers. And then Adelaide Oval itself has also been really conducive to the quicks. They're allowing 37 GDS points per quick versus only 8 per spinner. So the quicks are definitely the play at Adelaide Oval. And then as further evidence, if you go back a year and have a look at this same matchup at Adelaide Oval, in this game, Richo took 3 wickets and he added 14 dot balls in his 4 overs. So he knows what to do on this ground against this team. And I guess, look, at the end of the day, like I said at the top of this analysis, that's not even the best part. The best part is that we all can sit back and have a mini Brodown showdown between Stu and I with a couple of Scorchers bowlers. And and hope for whoever the people that are listening, people that are watching, decide and back your favourite bro in for a massive game with the Scorchers.
Yeah, I said last week when you talked about Jai Richardson, I do love watching him play. He is just a genuine wicket taker. He just seems to always make things happen when he's got that ball in his hand, especially in the BBL. I know his first over went for 18 last night, but he certainly bounced back in a really good way to finish with respectable figures. And like you said, he does offer a little bit with the bat if given the opportunity. I think batters tend to take Jai Richardson on a little bit more just with that pace that comes on. Seems to come off the bat quite well. Josh Brown certainly made the most of that. Whereas I think David Payne is probably your variations types bowler, probably going to be more conservative against him. If I'm leaning towards picking one, I think I have to be on the Jai Richardson train just purely for the fact that I do love watching him play, and I think he is a genuine wicket taker who could potentially take 3 or 4 wickets.
Good. Early win for me. Good luck, Stu. Alrighty, that is it. That's our round 12 analysis. Let's jump into our round 12 consensus 11. At the top, we have Sammy Harper taking out our wicket to keep a spot. Cooper Connolly, as always, Matty Renshaw, and then Davey Warner round out our batsmen. We've then got Stoinis, Matt Short, Overton, and Aaron Hardy getting into that 4th all-rounder spot. Then our bowlers are Harris Ralph, Xavier Bartlett, and Jai Richardson. A couple of pods up for offer there. I talked about Sam Billings, and then Hussein has obviously done some great things so far. That there's a few different options there for that Hurricanes bowling lineup, and Rashad's just going as well as any of them, so he's definitely a pod in that. Alrighty, and now we get into our favourite part of the show. It is the Bro Down Showdown, and what a week. What about that? Such a low-scoring round. Jackie Edwards on 28 points, Matty Renshaw on 28 points, and finally we've got a winner in the bowling lineup, and that is Xavier Bartlett on 7 more points, 35 points. And congratulations to anyone who commented Has. I think there were only 2 people that nominated Has for a win, so well done to them. Interesting. I just saw that. Mel said, get your changes in now, lads. The website and app is slow for multiple people. So if you are watching and you're waiting for us to finish, you might need to jump on now and see if you can listen and multitask, changing your team as you go. Boys, I'll continue talking if you want to make any changes to your squads right now. Look, as always, we do our Bro Down Showdown where the 3 fantasy bros go head to head and see who is the superior bro. As you can see, has taken a bit of a lead now. He is 3-2 up against Stu and I believe. 4. Or is it 4? No, it's 4 now. Sorry, my apologies. 4-2-2. Look, not only does it give the amazing community a chance to win some unreal prizes each and every week, you can jump in and be a part of the show as well. For every live show, we are assigned a position from bat wicketkeeper, all-rounder, and bowler. We swing through those each and every round, and we pick who we think is the top player in that position. As you can see, our highest score wins. Best part, comment who you think is going to win Bro Down Showdown, and you can get in the running for some awesome cards. And those 2 people that did that today are about to jump on screen on the wheel here. Let's have a look. I know that one of them was our good friend, Mian G Gaming. The other one was another good friend in Ganners, who we have loved joining us each and every week. So congratulations to Ganners and Mian G Gaming. Boys, can you see that wheel on screen?
Yeah, got it. It's a head-to-head battle.
I think
here we go. Let's spin that wheel.
I think Mian's voted for me nearly every week.
And it pays off.
And there you go.
Oh, well, it's done the trick, mate. It has done the absolute trick. Good on you, Mian. Well done, mate.
Thanks for backing me, Mian.
Jump across. Alrighty, let's get some packs up here. Give me 1 second, boys. Alrighty. Day squad is not too slow, and we can get straight into these packs. All right, I've got a couple of rare packs ready to open. Has, are you taking the first one, or is this for Mian?
No, Mian gets the first one.
All righty, let's go. Good luck, Mian. Oh, maybe I'm going to have to refresh. Gotta load that.
Oh, the suspense is killing me.
Apologies, Mian. Gives time to get your teams. Love it. We need to get a drum roll audio tone in here, I reckon. All right, here we go. All righty. Opening this rare pack. Come on. Let's get something good. Alrighty, Mianji, here we go. You've got Joshy Inglis gold. That's a great card there. He will return to the squad for sure. Ashton Turner, he's doing things, getting a few more overs with the ball as well. That is a plat. And then finishing off this pack with a diamond.
Oh,
here we go. Here we go, Mian. Here we go. It is. Hey!
Oh,
how about that? Scorches triple, the Ashton Turner double. Congrats, Mian. Well done, mate. I'm sure you're going to use all of those cards. Unreal. Let's get into Haz's pack, mate. Good luck with this one.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can get better. Yarns, Ashton Turner diamond. Alrighty, we've got Akuni gold. Good heat player there. We've got a Khan platinum going well for the gate. And then we finish it off with a gold Hilton Cut. Not as good, but decent pack there as well. Unreal. And look, boys, I just saw I have a bunch of one-player rares. So I'm going to open this one player for Ganners. I know he just missed out there. Unlucky to miss out. So I'm going to open this one quickly for him, and then we're going to wrap up the show. Good luck, Ganners. Hopefully you can get something good from the one-player rare. Let's see. Alrighty. And it's an Ollie Peak.
Oh, not bad.
What a time to pack Ollie Peak. Finishes the game with a 6 and then heads straight off to the under-19 World Cup. So you won't be able to use him probably for majority of this round, majority of this season, but definitely one for the future. Alrighty, as you can see on screen, I said Haz has taken that 4-2 lead. If you think Haz is going to continue his domination of Brodown Showdown with Matty Renshaw this week, make sure you comment Haz in this video or when you rewatch or re-listen on YouTube or Spotify. If you think Stu's going to win with Harris Ralph, make sure you comment Stu. And then if you think I'm going to take it out with Marcus Stoinis, make sure that you comment Dill. Remember, this is for round 12. So tonight's game and tomorrow's game do not count towards Brodown Showdown. Get your comments in. Make sure you let us know who you are backing in Brodown Showdown. And you could be as lucky as Mianji Gaming and end up with some unreal cards, including that Diamond Ashton Turner. Great work, Mian. Look, that is it for the round 11 and round 12 preview. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. We've only got a few shows to go. There's only a couple of rounds left in the GDS season before we gear up for some big competitions in global cricket, in AFL, and NRL. We'll be bringing plenty of content to you between then. And just quietly, how good are we going in the football, boys? We are absolutely smashing it there as well. So make sure you're keeping an eye on our Instagram page at Fantasy Bros AU, where we drop our consensus rankings each and every week for football as well as cricket. Alrighty, that is it. Our round 13 preview will be coming to you live Monday, the 12th of January, at 5:05 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you're following our YouTube channel, Fantasy Bros AU, to catch up with everything that you have missed from the show. Rewind it back. Make sure you check out our pods quickly before this round kicks off in about 15 minutes. Make sure you get your Brodown Showdown nominations in. We can see a few flooding in already. Michael Cozzy's going for me. Good work, Cozzy. We've got Such as Fife going for Hazshaw. I like that. That could be a new nickname. Quite a few going for Haz. Again, they're just backing the form. And then Stu has commented himself. Good on you, mate. Well done.
I wasn't getting enough love.
Done. There is no proof that was Stu commenting, but I can tell you, I can guarantee you that it was him. Alrighty, boys. That is it. Thank you very much for another awesome show. We will catch you Monday. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We will talk to you soon. Good luck and the next. Cheers, boys.